Welcome everyone to Discover This, and welcome back. So today we have another in our series of long lost concert venues. Although this time we're not really going to focus on the punk rock venues so much. We're going to go back to the early 1960s and early 1970s, talk about some of those venues that are long gone. But you're going to recognize some of these bands and performers that came through some of these places. I mean, these ended up being superstars, headlining arenas and stadiums and stuff. But these places we're going to talk about today were like coffee houses and really small clubs. So you're probably going to be amazed at some of these names that came through these very small places. So let's go check it out. All right, first we're going to get started with a little concert history on one particular group. And it's a group that's been coming to San Diego for decades. They've played every major concert venue in town, from stadiums down to clubs. And that group is the Beach Boys. And the first time the Beach Boys came to town was February 19th and 20th, 1962. And they played here at 3721 University Avenue at the Academy Fine Arts Theater. And there was a surfing documentary going on, and they hired the Beach Boys out of Hawthorne, California, to come in and perform. So they played 2 nights here, 2 days, and the rest is history. February 19th and 20th, 1962, the Beach Boys played right inside here. Still open today. I'm not sure if this is a church or some other kind of performing arts venue, but still open and operating, which is good. Now, the next time the Beach Boys came to town, they played a very unique venue. Maybe some of you remember that. So the second time the Beach Boys came to town, September 9th, 1963, and they actually played at the Helix High School Stadium, if you can believe that. And then they came back a month later, October 5th, 1963, and they played at the Starlight Bowl in Balboa Park. So that's enough on our Beach Boys trivia. Now on to the concert venues. So this is the corner at 12th and Broadway, San Diego. There was a building right here across the street that way back in the day housed a place called the Palladium. Also housed the Palladium Record City Record Shop. But in the early 60s, 1960 to 64, 65-ish, it was known as the Pacific Ballroom. The second floor, showing you a picture now from 1970. That second floor of this building was where the Pacific Ballroom was. The Pacific Ballroom had a number of great musicians and bands come through. I mean, B.B. King, Bobby Blue Bland, Bo Diddley, Little Richard, Carl Perkins, Ray Charles, Sam Cooke, Etta James, Big Joe Turner, the Drifters, the Coasters. Coasters with Johnny Otis, and many, many more came through here. Long gone, long tore down, probably going to be another high-rise. Pacific Ballroom. Way back in the day, where this building is here right now, at the corner of Front and G Street, this was Monty's Skateland. It's another roller skating rink. And when Monty's Skateland closed down, a group of people rented the building out, the building that was here, and opened a place called the Hippodrome. And they made it into a music venue. This is 1968, and it was a collective of people, you know, that wanted to bring some music down. Basically, a lot of San Francisco bands down to San Diego. So they opened the Hippodrome. Only lasted about a year or so, but the opening weekend, June 7th and 8th in 1968, was the Steve Miller Band, and they had just released their debut album. The following weekend was the Velvet Underground. Other bands who came through here: Eric Burdon and the Animals, Quicksilver Messenger Service. There was 2 nights with the Grateful Dead, Mothers of Invention. Velvet Underground came back for a return engagement. Iron Butterfly, Steppenwolf, Bo Diddley, Electric Flag, and a number of others came and played at the Hippodrome during that year, 1968. Now, interestingly enough, when Hippodrome closed down, I don't know if there was anything in the building for a number of years, but around 1974 it opened up again as a music venue. This time it was called Tuesdays. That was the name of the club, Tuesdays. And they also had a number of great shows: Quicksilver Messenger Service, Linda Ronstadt, Steppenwolf, Journey, Rory Gallagher with Rush opening, Sha Na Na, REO Speedwagon. Those were all 1974, and Tuesdays ended up closing down in 1975. But right in here, this was 211 G Street, back when it was Hippodrome and then Tuesdays. Long gone, now it's a condominium complex. Here where this building is right now, this used to be 7711 El Cajon Boulevard in La Mesa. And this used to be the location of the Candy Company. And the Candy Company was a very small coffee shop, small club that had a lot of people come through that you're going to recognize some of these names. But some of the people that just hung out here was a guy named Glenn Frey, went on to form the Eagles, a guy named J.D. Souther, a guy named Jackson Brown, when he wasn't performing here, would come and hang out. But one of the guys that kind of worked here was a guy named Jack Timchin. And you may remember him as a singer-songwriter, but I believe this is where he actually met Glenn Frey, and they became friends and started writing together and ended up living together for a while. But just some of the people that came through here and played at this venue, besides Jackson Brown: Lightning Hopkins, Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee. Hoyt Axton played here a number of times. A comedian from the Bay Area came down and played here a handful of times, or maybe a few more. A guy by the name of Steve Martin. Big Mama Thornton played here. The Dillards. I mean, if you don't know the Dillards from bluegrass and country, you got to check them out. But the Candy Company was operating from about 1967 to 1970. So a lot of other people came through here, but those are just a few of them that I'm sure you recognize. But this is the location, or was the location, of the Candy Company. So next up, we're on El Cajon Boulevard, 7578 El Cajon Boulevard, and this used to be Cinnamon Cinder. Now, the Cinnamon Cinder was a chain of clubs. There were 3 altogether. One in Studio City, Hollywoodish area, one in Long Beach, and one here in La Mesa. And they were owned by a guy by the name of Bob Eubanks. You may remember him. He was the host of the Newlywed Game. But back in the day, he was a DJ in LA, very popular DJ in LA. So Cinnamon Cinder would book a lot of bands, and they could book them in all 3 places, you know, so sign them up and they'd have 3 different venues to play at. But just some of the bands that came through here in La Mesa: the Coasters, the Drifters. There was a band, some of you may remember, called Caesar and Cleo. And shortly after playing here at Cinnamon Cinder, they changed their name to Sonny and Cher. So Buffalo Springfield played here for 2 nights, and during at least one of those shows there was a talent scout from the William Morris Agency by the name of John Hartman. He's actually the brother of Phil Hartman, if you remember Phil Hartman, the comedian, Saturday Night Live and Pee-wee's Playhouse, all that. Well, his brother John Hartman was a talent scout for William Morris, and he attended at least one of those Buffalo Springfield shows here. And shortly after the show, he ended up signing them to a contract, and the rest is history, basically. But other bands that came through here when it was the Cinnamon Cinder were the Kingsmen. Remember them? Louie Louie. That was their song. Ike and Tina Turner. The Righteous Brothers. And a number of others. But after it was the Cinnamon Cinder, and after that closed down, this place ended up becoming a recording studio and concert venue called Straight Ahead Sound. And they had a number of bands come through here, you know, hard rock, heavy metal, hair metal, that kind of thing. One of the bands that played here very frequently was a band called Mickey Rat. And they would play at Straight Ahead Sound a lot, and then they ended up moving up to LA and just changing their name to Rat. And you probably remember them. But a band called Riot came through here, you know, Badlands with Jakey Lee, Warrant. And then this place changed its name again, and it became the Lyric Dinner Theater. So some of you may remember that. They still hosted shows here. There was a show here at the Lyric Dinner Theater by Raven and Keel and a number of others. But then the Lyric Dinner Theater went out of business, and they ended up tearing down that building and putting up this building that's here today. But this was where the Cinnamon Cinder was. A lot of rock history here. So now I moved a little west into the city of San Diego. And here at what would have been 5968 El Cajon Boulevard, this was the location of the Funky Quarters. A little club that was right in here in the early 70s, somewhere between this pawn shop and where this bank is now. But the Funky Quarters had a number of bands come through here, number of artists. I mean, in 1971 you had T-Bone Walker. You had Albert Collins. If you're into Albert Collins, check out our video on Albert Collins. You had Tim Weisberg. You had John Lee Hooker. In 1972 saw Mahavishnu Orchestra, Rory Gallagher, and Rory Gallagher's show was bootleg, so you can find that bootleg somewhere out and about. Cal Jader, that show was also recorded. A young upcoming comedian by the name of George Carlin played here. Jim Croce, Seals and Crofts, and a duo that became super famous, Loggins and Messina. They played this little club here. Kenny Loggins and Jim Messina went on to superstardom, playing arenas and stuff, but Loggins and Messina here at the Funky Quarters on El Cajon Boulevard back in the day. So as I get older, I'm forgetting stuff, so got to write a lot of stuff down, but I decided to change all my passwords to Kenny. So computer, phone, everything. So now I have all Kenny Loggins. Yeah, I did it. So back from 1973 to 1975, right here where this Sign King and the CrossFit gym is, this was a place called JJ's. Now some of you may remember a place called JJ's Palace, which was across the street from the sports arena, where the the Target is now on Sports Arena Boulevard. Well, when JJ's Palace closed down, they opened up JJ's right here in the 4000 block of Pacific Highway. And the JJ's were, you know, one J was Jerry Herrera, who was JJ's Palace and also went on to open the Spirit Club, which will be another video. And the other J was James Pagney. So pretty major concert promoter here in San Diego. Those were the two JJ's. So when JJ's opened in 1973, one of the first bands that played here was a band not too many people had heard of, but they were big in Texas, a band called ZZ Top. Other bands that came through here, Electric Light Orchestra, King Crimson, one of my favorites, the New York Dolls, Diana Ross and the Supremes, Foghat, Steely Dan played here. There's actually a bootleg out there of the Steely Dan show here at JJ's. Status Quo, a British band by the name of Hawkwind, kind of a space rock, prog rock band. Their bass player at the time is a guy you may have heard of, a guy by the name of Lemmy Kilmister, went on to form Motorhead. Slade played here. There was also a band called White Horse played here, and I'm showing you some pictures here of the guitar player from White Horse. His name was Robert Deal. Well, Robert Deal later changed his name to Mick Mars, and he formed Motley Crue. So later, after JJ's closed down in 1975 or so, this became a Cousins Warehouse. You may remember that, big orange building. And now it's just CrossFit and other things here, but formerly JJ's. That's going to do it, everyone, for this this video here. I thank you for watching. I do appreciate it, and we have lots more coming on these long lost concert venues from different places around, you know, the southwestern US mostly, but we'll be from time to time doing some of these. But we got lots of variety coming, lots of different videos. I mean, we're not just going to Disneyland every day trying the new churro. So we got lots of things to talk about. I appreciate you coming along for the ride, and we will see you next time on Discover This.